4. What the story is about. This is a true story of two brothers, Michael and John Clark, 1946, and David Clark, 1949, who were born in Oldham, Lancashire, England. The story portrays a remarkable change that took place in the life of David when he was 20 years old on the night of the 60th of January 1970. His brother Michael was left untouched. These brothers influenced each other during the 50s and 60s and resulted in both David and Michael serving time in prison. David was sent to Dover Borstal and Michael to Maidstone Prison for charges of malicious wounding and carrying a firearm without a licence. The story speaks in detail of all those significant events in David's life from being a child through to the time of his conversion to Christ, and then recounts the consequent difficulties that he experienced as he tried to follow the way of Christ. This led David to make a confession to the police about his 24 crimes and the recovery of much stolen property. The story appeared as news headlines in the Bucks Herald paper on the 11th of February 1971 and led to a remarkable conditional discharge. It was believed by many of Aylesbury's criminal world that David had gone mad after taking LSD, or the story was an ingenious plan devised by David to prevent him from being sent to prison again for crimes against society. This was not the case, as the story will tell. Michael continued his life in the direction that he was going and married, and he had a daughter and a brief flamboyant lifestyle in business. He became the company managing director of Tudor Charm, a manufacturing company in Milton Keynes, and enjoyed the success of business for a season. This eventually came to an end by his company going into liquidation and him into deep depression, leading to his broken marriage and divorce. Michael sought to restart his business after his divorce and moved to Thailand, starting his company called Paradise Movies, which led to his further troubles and reports of various scams in Thailand that were published in the News of the World in 1992. Finally, he took the ideas that he had learned in Pattaya, Bangkok, to the Philippines and commenced his travel agency called Paradise Express, selling holidays whose main attractions were adult pleasures for men only. This hit international news and led to a criminal conviction. He was condemned to serve a 16-year prison sentence in New Billericay Prison in 1996. Michael always maintained his innocence. When this story was first written, Michael was a broken man in body and in health and had no hope for the future. It was during this time that Michael had contacted David and told him of his despair and his friendship with Sonny Wilson, who'd been sentenced to death in the Philippines in 1996. When the Supreme Court acquitted Sonny on the 19th of December 1999, he gave Michael a paperback book which was C.S. Lewis's book Mere Christianity. It was this book which convinced Michael that Jesus was the Christ and led him to be baptized in the prison. David believed God was able to save Michael and give him hope for the future, even though he had lived a life far from God in the past and was now serving a near-life sentence in an awful third world prison. David then went on a mission of help to the Philippines to bring relief to Michael, and they too worked together to bring help and assistance to many convicted criminals who too had turned their lives around, and they published their joint book, Trojan Warriors, that contains 66 life-giving testimonies of some of Asia's most notorious criminals. This story is now told as a punk rock opera called Borstal Boy, written to be performed in prisons of the UK. The story is remarkable and demonstrates the goodness and mercy of God in saving one through Jesus Christ and the severity of God in leaving another to himself. But now it is as though Michael too had been plucked like a brand from the burning fire. David now believes that both he and Michael, although criminals in the 60s, were victims of manic depression, and they have both suffered from hypomanic episodes. However, their belief systems conditioned the way they reacted to their mood swings and may well account for some of the remarkable experiences that are recorded in this book. This story could be a real help to judges, magistrates, psychiatrists, nurses, doctors, social workers, solicitors, policemen, ministers of religion, lecturers, teachers and probation officers. Also, it could be helpful to Christians and those who suffer from manic depression or dyslexia. It could also be a means of help to reformed criminals and useful to those living in the margins of society, along with unruly youths, drug users, hardened criminals. It could also be a help to anyone contemplating or going through divorce. David Clark, Michael Clark, signatures.